friends. Hello, hi, how are you? I hope you guys are having an amazing day today. Hello. So, this video is coming at you pretty late if I'm doing what I plan on doing, which is uploading this like kind of late at night, which I don't normally do, but everything with Glowmas is kind of throwing off drama stuff. I haven't really been doing a lot of drama content this month, and that's mainly because I just first of all, nothing was really going on besides like little things petty things that I didn't really feel any sort of way about. And also just like so much drama happened this year. It was kind of nice to take a little bit of a break from talking about it and not necessarily commentating on every single thing that was happening. But now something has come up that I do feel like I could offer some insight on, and something that I do have a pretty strong opinion about. And I think it would be cool to get your guys' opinions and share mine. And so we're doing this. However, this isn't really a part of Glowmas. I'm gonna count this as just kind of a one-off video because I already have my finale to Glowmas is tomorrow at the normal time, which is 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So this is kind of like just a random video, which I don't normally do on my channel. So we're gonna see how this goes. If it tanks, it tanks. Like, I don't know. At the very least, I would just like to hear some of your opinions and see if like I'm way off base or if people agree with me or like what. Candle of the day today is Ski Lodge Hot Cocoa and Cream. This literally smells like chocolate. It's amazing. I love it. So today we are gonna be talking about the Nickacado Avocado and Stephanie Sue drama. Now, both of these YouTubers are mukbang YouTubers, which basically is just kind of eating and talking and doing things. I think Stephanie actually does some like mukbang and true crime stuff, if I'm not mistaken. And Nick is kind of known for doing mukbang and drama type stuff. I don't particularly watch the mukbang community, so I didn't really know either of these two people before. I'd never heard of Stephanie, and I only knew about Nick because of the Trisha Paytas dramas that happened earlier this year. So I didn't really know about either of them going into this situation. Basically now, this almost feels like the mukbang community's version of Sistergeddon when like Tati and James Charles went at it. Like that's kind of how it feels, pretty much down to a T. Like Stephanie seems like the very trustworthy person who never really gets into drama, and Nick's the more like rebellious like person who gets into drama. Stephanie makes her video, everybody hates Nick. Nick comes back a week later with all these receipts and now everybody's on Nick's side. I don't think it's that simple. First I wanted to summarize each of their videos just really quickly, just because if you didn't watch them, you can kind of get a vibe, or even if you did, just to refresh kind of what happened. So in Stephanie's video, which came out I think a week or a week and a half ago, basically discussed Nickacado Avocado and why she didn't feel safe around him, why she was scared of him. I believe that was her title, was Why I'm Scared of Nickacado Avocado. And in that video, Stephanie really discusses and breaks down why she feels the way that she feels. And it becomes pretty apparent early on in the video. Stephanie has suffered a large amount of trauma that has kind of led her to feel the things that she's feeling. She very obviously is dealing with, you know, I don't like to label anybody, so I'm not gonna say things like PTSD, but like definitely classic symptoms of somebody who's experienced a lot of trauma and might find things particularly triggering. She basically said she had trusted Nick, she had allowed Nick into her home, which is not something she does often. She said that she had trusted him with very personal information about a sexual assault that had happened to her. She said she had denied Nick for collabs a few times because she felt like he was just drama, and then she finally agreed because she felt like she could open up to him. She felt like they were being friends. She also lightly touched on how she had known about Nick previously, which was through drama from another mukbang YouTuber. I didn't know mukbang YouTubers had this much drama until this. Named Veronica Wang, and there was all this drama there. I'm not even gonna touch on that because I don't really know what that's about, but she was talking about the Nick stuff. When Nick and Stephanie and this other YouTuber named Zach decided to do a three-way collab, she felt that Nick pressured her on camera while they were filming to talk about circumstances surrounding the Veronica Wang issue, which she said she didn't feel comfortable talking about. She said she felt very uncomfortable, very pressured, and that he was not picking up on her sort of clues as to what she was trying to say, that she was uncomfortable without actually saying it, because obviously they're filming. And I think there is a level to that of when you are filming with somebody you don't know very well, you like don't know what they're gonna keep in or not keep in. Like I've only ever filmed with people I trusted, but you never really know. Like if she had turned to him and been like, I'm not comfortable with that, stop right now. Like you don't know if he's gonna use that later to like expose you. So I did understand what she was saying about that. But she felt like she couldn't really say these things. She felt very scared of him. She felt very intimidated. And she said because of her past trauma, particularly, she felt like he was pressuring her and putting her in a position where she could not say no. And she found that to be very triggering due to her past trauma with sexual assault. She also said that she got home and was basically having anxiety attacks all night, was panicking. She showed actual footage footage from her like home. She has cameras in her home. She showed footage of her having a panic attack and her, I believe it was her fiance, comforting her and trying to help her. It was her crying, it was her screaming. So she showed all of that, and she said it really caused her extreme distress, the encounter that she had with him. She felt like she had been manipulated by him. She felt like he gaslit her. She felt like he put her in an unsafe position as far as her mental health goes. And then she also discussed how the next day they were all supposed to meet up again to film more collabs, and she essentially bailed. She said she wasn't gonna go. She didn't really communicate with him throughout the day until much later in the day. It was a few hours after their collab was supposed to happen that she did finally reach out to him. But when she did reach out to him, she did express that he had made her feel uncomfortable in talking about these things, and that all of this had just left a really bad taste in her mouth and she felt really uncomfortable. Nick did not respond to that in the best way. Based on the screenshots, he was a little bit more aggressive, very angry about the situation, especially considering the fact that she had just told him that she felt, you know, insecure, not safe, like not feeling great about the situation. Like, he was pretty aggressive in response to her trying to open up. She then ended her video basically showing a clip of Nick from a deleted video where it wasn't the full video, so we didn't really get the full context, but the clips that were used were kind of disturbing. Basically talking about how he had a guy over for a date in New York City from Grindr, and how the guy didn't want to hook up with him and how he felt like he wasted his time by not wanting to hook up with him, and all of these things. How he basically said some stuff about the Me Too movement that was really not in good taste. And Stephanie basically closed out the video saying she felt like she had been manipulated by him. She felt like he had lied to her. And then she ended the video by showing clips of Nick and a bunch of other mukbang YouTubers basically mocking her. One of the phrases she used when talking to Nick was that she was in and out of sleep, and that's why she didn't respond to him. And he posted a video chanting with his friends going in and out of sleep, and then posted like a little meme of the In and Out logo and then in and out of sleep, trying to like basically mock her on the internet. And she talked about how that type of online bullying, she's not going to tolerate it. When it first came out, a lot of people were on her side. A lot of people were, what is going on? Like, a lot of people already had this kind of distrust for Nick, I think because of how things went down with the Trisha Paytas situation. Pretty shortly after that, Trisha Paytas actually put out a video discussing the situation. Why Trisha Paytas was involved, I don't know. I think I'm not going to recap Trisha's whole video because it was like 50 minutes long and she didn't really say much, but basically Trisha put out her video because her and Nick had collabed and Trisha had talked some shit about Stephanie without being aware of the full situation, without being aware of the trauma that was involved in the situation of Stephanie's sexual assault. And so she felt like she didn't want people to take her talking crap out of context, basically just trying to cover herself kind of situation, which is like, you know, I get it. At least I think she wanted to stop any drama before it even started in regards to this and wanted to kind of take herself out of the situation entirely, which is like, whatever. Trisha's really not a part of this. So at this point, people were waiting for Nick for a response from him, and his response took a while. I know that in the time it took him, a lot of people were pretty against him. I kept looking at his channel trying to see like if he had addressed it in any of his videos that he was posting, and pretty much every single video he was posting was just getting spammed with hate comments. All of his live streams were getting spammed with hate comments. His Instagram and Twitter, everyone on Twitter was blowing up about him. His Instagram was getting spammed. It was pretty bad. I don't know if he lost subscribers. Yeah, it seems like he lost not a huge amount of subscribers for how large he is, because he is at almost 2 million subscribers, but it does seem he lost about 40,000 subscribers, which is substantial. That's a substantial amount of loss. So Nick tonight finally uploaded his video. It is an hour and like 35 minutes long. I had to watch it in like 3 parts because it was really long, honestly. And he provided kind of a different context to the story that Stephanie's story definitely didn't have. So Nick first talked about the fact that he provided receipts and text messages to show, and for the sake, we're just gonna say that every text that was shown by both parties are real, because you can pretty much just debunk anything by being like, oh, it's fake. But like, let's just, for the sake of this whole thing, let's just say they're real, because they looked real, they seemed real. So Nick shows text messages from Stephanie and a few other mukbangers, basically where she wanted to make a like Shane Dawson-esque documentary about her situation with Veronica and Nick, and I think it was Shukbang, was that the name? It was basically a mukbang drama channel that got striked because of Veronica went. It was like this whole thing. How she wanted to make this type of documentary surrounding it, and how she wanted to talk about it in depth and get an apology from Veronica and like all this stuff. So that provides a little bit of new content context into why maybe Nick would have thought it was okay to talk about Veronica with Stephanie. However, I don't really know how I feel about that, because while that does provide context into why he might think that, in my brain it's like the way Stephanie told it was definitely different, where she said in the car, like right before filming, she said she didn't want to talk about it. So like even if she did months prior want to talk about it, that doesn't necessarily mean that now she wants to talk about it, but he at least provides context to like his mindset, right? Nick also goes on to talk about the photos that were taken in his house. I don't know if I mentioned that in her story. She also said that she watched back her security cameras and she saw him taking pictures in her home while she went to the bathroom, and because she takes her privacy so seriously, she felt like that was a huge violation. He explained that from his perspective, he had full permission to take those pictures, that she was actually in one of the pictures that he took. He did show pictures of her home that she was not in. So again, it's hard to say. I'm not trying to disprove everything he said, because I think he made some valid points. Like if she knew about the pictures, that's kind of shady. She didn't post the footage of him taking the pictures and her not being there. So I can't really say who's right or wrong on that. But there were pictures that she wasn't in that looked like he could have just snapped because he wanted to send to his boyfriend. I don't think he was taking, I never thought he was taking those pictures to be creepy. I never thought he was taking those pictures because he wanted to like rob her home. Like it just seems like kind of a weird thing to do. I think he was probably taking pictures because, like he said, he liked her couch and he just like wanted it, or he liked the way that her lighting was done. I never thought the whole picture thing was super creepy, except for the fact that I understand why Stephanie felt like it was creepy. So he kind of explains the pictures and claims that she lied about the whole thing and completely lied about that. Again, we don't have really proof to say it's one way or the other. A lot of the video was focused on him feeling like Stephanie claimed that she was so against bullying and so against all of these things, but he felt like she didn't stand up for him and tell her fans to stop bullying her. He also talked about the fact that Stephanie had been watching his Instagram stories and watching them like the second they upload and kind of keeping tabs on him and putting his name in a tag saying like, Nick, I know you're gonna see this, things like that are kind of creepy. For those of you that don't know YouTube tags, you can like tag your video with things. So putting Nick, I know you're seeing this, or Nick, I know you're watching is kind of antagonizing a person at that point. That's a little shady. He apologized not to Stephanie, but to the other people that he involved in the situation by tagging them in that meme, because he says they've been getting a lot of crap for the situation and he feels bad that he ever brought them into that. In my opinion, it would have almost been better to just like apologize to everyone. And he did own up to the fact that it was like a petty thing to do, but he definitely didn't fully apologize for the actual act to Stephanie that I saw. The other thing he talked about was how he struggled with kind of attachment issues as a result of being adopted. It's not something he says he's ever talked about really before on YouTube, and he kind of opens up to how these attachment issues make him react in certain ways towards certain people, how him having this sort of need to be included, this need to be liked, causes him to not let things go the way other people might about something like being ghosted by somebody. Because this is now the second time that he's been ghosted by somebody, and it seems like he has a very, very extreme reaction. So he does kind of explain this by talking about an attachment disorder that he has. He also mentions a point that I thought was probably the most valid point, and it wasn't something I had thought of, but he mentions a point of how the way that Stephanie edited her video felt calculating. Because in about the first like 15 seconds of the video, you see Stephanie crying on a couch, screaming with a man standing over her, who it's not entirely clear who the man is. You see Stephanie saying "Me Too," which has kind of been, especially, I don't know about in other countries, but in America, the Me Too movement is like huge, where it's kind of a signifier of sexual assault. And you see her showing clips of him saying things that are not great. So he kind of makes the argument that the way that she edited that was manipulative to make it seem like in the first few minutes that he had sexually assaulted her, sexually harassed her, done something to her that was more than what she ended up actually saying it was. When I first watched the video, that was not the vibe I got. I never thought the person standing over her was Nick, because he would have been arrested. You know what I mean? But I watched it again after he made that point, and I actually thought, you know what? I guess that's true. Being a YouTuber, I'm aware of analytics, and I agree with what he said about watch time. The longer a video is, typically the longer people watch, but not everybody's gonna watch a 45-minute video. Like, your watch time is usually about half. So because Stephanie didn't address a lot of those things until later in the video, if you did only watch the beginning part of that video and then made your assumptions, you might think those things that he was saying, that he was the man standing over her while she was crying, that he had done something sexually inappropriate to her, which is not what happened. That part, I was like, you know what? I kind of agree. The way, I don't know if that was intentional on her part, the way she edited it, but I can see how the way she edited it made him look a certain way that wasn't actually what the entirety of the video was about. So I thought that was a really interesting point that he made about the whole thing. I think what what it comes down to, because that's kind of the both sides. And in my opinion, I think both sides are right and both sides are wrong. But at the end of the day, I think this situation really comes down to two people who both are struggling with different types of trauma, who just don't communicate or mesh well. A big thing that's talked about in mental health treatment, you know, any type of thing, a big thing that we talk about and what we're told is personal accountability is a huge thing, because you can only control yourself at the end of the day. At the end of the day, you cannot control every other person around you and how they respond to you and your situation. So especially if you're a person who has experienced a large level of trauma, you can only control how you respond to situations that trigger you. People are going to trigger you. What Nick did very obviously triggered Stephanie and made her feel certain things as a result of her trauma. I do not believe what she said was a lie about her feeling triggered about that. I don't think that was played up. She would have had to go back and like fake record herself sobbing on a couch for that to not be real. And I just don't think somebody would lie about something like that to that extent. She very obviously was truly triggered by what he did and was very uncomfortable with the situation. And in my opinion, while I do think ghosting is rude, at the end of the day, she had to do what was best for her and her, you know, coping skills. Like, her coping skill was to get out of that situation as soon as possible and remove herself from the situation. That's a lot of people's coping skills who have trauma, because you can't control Nick making you feel uncomfortable. You can't control him pressuring you to talk about something. But what you can control is removing yourself from the situation. And in that sense, I think what Stephanie did was absolutely the right thing to do for her. However, looking at it from Nick's perspective, I think he is used to being a very, you know, honest, upfront, bold person. You know, he's obviously very used to those things. And I think because he's like that, their two personalities might just not mesh. I don't think he was trying to be this evil, manipulative mastermind, but I can also see how he was definitely pressuring her into talking about something she didn't really want to talk about. If you watch the videos, she does look uncomfortable in some of them. Not in every single one, like she kind of claimed, but there's the one where they were talking about it where she does look uncomfortable. She does look like she's not feeling comfortable. So unless she planned everything from the start and she's the master manipulator, I think it was a situation of one person pushing a little too far and not respecting boundaries, and another person, because of their trauma, not being able to emotionally handle that. I also think that in the same way that when you have trauma, you can only control what you do, so her taking herself out of that situation was appropriate. I think because of Nick's trauma, it was difficult for him to just let go of the fact that in his opinion, and the way he saw it, Stephanie just ghosted him, and that was a trigger for him. That was something he found triggering. So then he was, and now they're fighting, and now it's this whole internet thing. And I think at the end of the day, if both of them could have communicated to each other better, or maybe just not communicated at all, I don't think any of this would have happened. I think if Nick hadn't have run to Instagram and said he was going to expose Stephanie, I think if he hadn't have made the in and out of sleep thing, I think if Stephanie maybe had been a little bit more honest about what was exactly triggering her, about what he did, so that he could have a better understanding of that, I think so much of this could have been avoided. For one of my videos for Glowmas, I wanted to do like a year in review and talk about kind of just like everything that's happened this year. And when I was going over a lot of it is really just miscommunication. It's just people who aren't communicating and aren't, you know, talking about personal things that other people might not know or have control over. A lot of it really is just people having reactions because of their own personal life experiences and maybe not communicating that the best way to other YouTubers. I think at the end of the day, they both did things wrong. Nick in his video did not address the actual issue of pressuring her to talk about it in that moment. He didn't address that. He brought the receipts from a few months ago, but he never really truly addressed pressuring her in that moment to talk about it. He never addressed a conversation that they would have had off camera that she wasn't going to talk about it. He didn't really address that stuff, and I think that's a problem. He should have addressed trying to pressure her to talk about something for content, because I do think, based on the videos that we did see, that's what happened. I also think he should have addressed the pictures differently, because yes, you have the one picture of her in it that she obviously was okay with, but that didn't look like a picture of her home. That looked like you were taking a picture to show that you were filming with her. That's a picture I would take if I was collabing with somebody. Pictures just randomly that you have of her home, that is is a little sus, and it does kind of corroborate her story. Also, Nick talks about the fact that he didn't even want to do this collab, this three-way collab situation, that it was Stephanie's idea, and that she had FaceTimed him with Zach, and they like kind of pressured him into doing this three-way collab, and Nick brought voice notes to kind of talk about this with other mukbangers. In my opinion, Nick talks so much about how open and honest and upfront he is and how he says whatever he's thinking that I don't necessarily buy that if he didn't want to do the collab with her, that he wouldn't have just said, no, I don't want to do that with you. Because you're either super upfront and honest to people and tell them no when you don't want to do something, or you're scared to look like an asshole. Because to me, he spent the whole video basically saying he wasn't afraid to look like an asshole, and then he said he collaborated with her because she snuck her way in not to look like, you know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't add up to me. I think Stephanie screwed up by not mentioning the fact that she had previously talked to a bunch of other people about wanting to film a documentary about this other person, because I think that does provide context. I think her telling Nick months in advance that she did want to talk about this, she did want to expose this person, she did want to do all of those things, would have provided more context as to why he felt the way he felt. While I understand that there's a difference between doing something on your own terms and doing something that somebody else is trying to pressure you into doing, I still think it makes her look not great in this situation, because that was a huge piece of the story that she just happened to leave out. She did explain their backstory and how they became friends, how they built up this friendship to get to the point of collabing. What she didn't do is express those types of conversations, and I think that was a fault on her. I also do think the way that she edited the video could have been less, how do I say this, less implying of certain things. And again, I don't know if that's the way that she intended it, but after watching it back, I do see his point that it does look a certain way in the first minute and a half that is not reflective of what the video actually is. Especially, he made a good point considering the fact that 6.3 million people watched that video, didn't know who he was, didn't have a clue about this other than what this girl was saying, and in the first minute and a half, it does look like maybe he did something to her that was incredibly severe versus just pushing boundaries with her. I think the very important lesson to learn from this is that communication is so important, and personal accountability is also important. Stephanie did what was best for her that day, which was leaving and taking herself out of the situation by not doing the other collab, even at the risk of making him angry. That was what was best for her, because she can't control what he does. She cannot control him pushing her boundaries, but she can control herself, and I think she did what was best for her that day. I think the way that Nick responded was inappropriate. I think mocking her with the rest of the mukbang community about something is definitely not incredibly appropriate, but with the provided context of how he feels and the trauma that he struggles with, it does make a little bit more sense. At the end of the day, I think it, again, if they both had just communicated, this wouldn't have needed to be a thing. I think with the age of social media, we're really in this age of like, I'm angry, so I'm gonna tell everyone about it. And you like immediately go in social media and tell people how mad you are, or you immediately, you know, he posted immediately that Instagram story being like, I'm gonna expose somebody. I think for Stephanie, her obvious reaction to that was to beat him to the punch. He tries to say that her sending those text messages after the fact were after she saw his Instagram story and she was trying to leave like a paper trail. But again, I don't know about that, because why would she have been bailing in the first place if that wasn't actually how she felt? Does that make sense? I don't know. I feel like both people could have communicated better. I feel as though both people at the end of the day were trying to do what was best for them in coping with the trauma that they've experienced. And I'm glad that Nick talked about in his video how in the coming year, maybe he does need to start taking this thing about him more seriously, because it's obviously becoming an issue. First we had the Trisha Paytas thing, now we have this. He acknowledged the fact that he feels like the way he responds to things like being ghosted or not being well liked does bother him. And I appreciate the fact that he at least acknowledged that he didn't respond the proper way in those text messages, that was maybe the more not great route to take for those things, and he acknowledged it, and he acknowledged to wanting to work on it. The other thing about this too is like, it's so hard in these types of situations because I think both people left out pretty big parts of the story. I think both people only told things from a side that was convenient to them and made them look the best in that situation. But I also think that's just kind of par for the course with YouTube drama at this point. These back and forth videos, even with the Tati and James thing, both left out things in their videos that would have made them look bad or not good. I think this this is a really interesting situation. I kind of hope that in 2020 we see less of this kind of back and forth, because as I kind of said, in the age of social media, we're just seeing people being really reactionary, and we're also seeing people not necessarily telling the full truth. Nobody, when they're making one of these videos, wants to talk about where they went wrong, which, like, of course they don't. They're humans. But at the same time, I hope that in the future, if we do see more drama like this, that people start to acknowledge their possible mistakes, wrongdoing in these situations, because I think it would avoid so much. I think leaving out crucial parts of any story just ends up making you look like the bad person. And another thing I want to know, I really wish we would stop the whole, like, intense support or not support of a person, because the reason I waited to make this video, I talked about it in a live stream, was I didn't have Nick's side of the story yet. And if there's one thing Sister Geddon taught me, it's that it's important to have two sides to a story because it provides clarity, okay? I hate to see that so many people were on Stephanie's side, and then the second Nick comes forward with any sort of receipts, everybody just flipped. Like, why don't we all just, like, wait a second, hold up, like, let's just wait a second and let's just see how things go, because this happens so much, and the constant flip-flopping, like, that's what cancel culture is like being just hating on somebody and then randomly flipping the switch just because they said something that you agree with all of a sudden. And even now, everybody's on Nick's side and everybody's in his comments praising him. I still don't think he's this perfect person. I don't think he came out perfect in this situation. I think this is two people who both didn't communicate well and both made some mistakes. I don't think one person came out looking like a winner and the other a loser. That's rarely the case in these types of situations. It's so rare that somebody is just truly like the loser, the bad guy, the evil one. Normally, it's just two people who don't really get along and don't communicate well. That's what 99% of these situations get chalked up to. I don't know. I really want to hear what you guys had to say about this situation, because I think it's a really interesting topic. I think this idea of mental health, trauma, personal accountability, like communication, I'm really interested to hear what you guys have to say. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, or just subscribe, or do neither. Honestly, just so happy you're here watching me. My merch, my social media, and everything I'm not wearing on my face because I'm wearing nothing will be linked down below, along with a link to register to vote. That's right, you can click on that link, you can register to vote, and you be part of your democracy. It's a great thing to do. And if you're not from the United States and that link does not apply to you, please make sure you're staying informed on what's going on in your part of the world. Make sure you're staying informed, because the world absolutely needs more of that. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!